So after that experience with going to a private sex party, I was pretty much very vocal in saying that that was not my cup of tea. And a few days after the fact, he kind of came to me and said, listen, I don't even know why I took you to that. That was completely out of behavior for me. Not to say I haven't gone to them, because like I said, I have. But I would never do that with somebody that I was in a long-term relationship with. And I don't know why I did that. It was out of character for me. And I'm sorry. And I hope that that didn't make you feel that I was disrespecting you or didn't value you. Because I do more than anything in the world. And I don't ever want to do that with you again, because it just left me in this weird funk afterwards. Like, I regretted it. And, I really appreciated that, because I was starting to think, like, what does he think I am? Like, what is our relationship? Did I read him wrong from the very beginning? And I always felt like this guy was a genuinely decent, loving, caring person that just loved me pieces. And so when that had happened, I started getting this, like, really funky feeling, like, wow, did I read him wrong the whole time? Is he really a monster that I didn't see? And him saying that to me kind of made me feel better about the whole thing, like, okay, we all make mistakes, we all just, that's something that you used to be into, maybe here or there with your friends when you're doing whatever it is you're doing, so maybe you just kind of, like, I don't know, but yeah, definitely I'm not into sex parties, I'm not into sex clubs. I think I'm a very open girl, and I've done a lot of things with you that I've never done with anybody else, but that's just something that I'm not willing to do. That's definitely a hard limit. And he agreed, and said that, he was satisfied in the sex life that we have together. And it's not just a physical thing, it's an emotional thing, and that's what makes it so strong. And he was not interested in ever putting me in a position where we would be in something like that. And he told me that, he was very jealous when it came to us in a relationship, and he didn't want to think of any other guy touching me. He would rage out if something like that would ever happen, and he would probably kill somebody. And he just didn't want to ever be in a position like that, and he regretted ever doing it. And he kept on saying, I wish that movie, I can't remember what it's called, something of the Spotless Mind, whatever it is, with Kate Winslet and Jim Carrey. I remember saying the name of it at the time. He said, I wish that really could happen, because if it could, I would have erased that night from your memory, because I don't want you to ever feel like I looked at you like that. And, like, it just kind of solidified what we had, like, he just had a bad night, and he said some stupid things, he did some stupid things, and it's over. And now I know that I'm important, and he's important to me, and we're done, and that's the end of that, and I'm not even going to think about it again. Obviously, I'm thinking about it now, but you know what I mean. And so we went on, and everything seemed to be really great. I started noticing, like after the whole situation, where I woke up in the dining room with two men that I have no idea who the fuck they were, and he was really aggressive on me about getting upstairs. And he never would tell me what it's about. He kept on telling me it was security when I knew it wasn't security, because, like, security you don't fear, and I'm not saying he feared them, but when he came in the room, his face turned pale white. He seemed shaky. He wanted me out of the room immediately. And if security, who's supposed to be there for your overall protection, is sitting in a room with your girlfriend, you're not going to be upset with that or worried about her safety. So I felt like he was holding things from me, and I didn't really know exactly what those things were. And I wasn't really, like, once again, in my ignorant mind, I wasn't sure I wanted to know what they were. Because there's this part of me that was very selfish at the time. I was so in love with him, as I still am now, but, just speaking in present terms, that I was blinded by a lot of things And when I look back now at them, I'm like, yeah, that was real suspicious. Um, and I've said numerous times and haven't really gone into, I have other scenarios in my life where it's not just about me. And it shouldn't have just been about me and him, and like, I should have been thinking beyond that. There came a point where, he was doing a lot of traveling, and, he wanted me to come with him, and, obviously his family didn't really want that to be going on, so he talked with security and everything of like, okay, well, she flew in like a couple of days into my trip, she stayed here, and we were staying in a private estate, then, nobody would even see us together, and I could go out and do my public events that I need to do, and then on my off time when I'm home, like, we can do our own thing, and nobody's bothered, nothing's compromised, and I still have time to think about everything that I need to do before it is compromised. And they seem to be okay with that because they always just wanted to make them really happy. I noticed that. Like, it's always like, are you okay? Are you happy? What do you need? What do you want? Because if he was happy, then he was doing exactly what they wanted and fulfilling their agenda. Which was, I've always felt like they've used him, they've utilized his overall personality and just the way he is with others to really kind of rebuild things, perceived notions that people have on them, or like whatever. Like, I've always felt like he's like extremely important. Like, they don't want to admit it, that like he's more important than others because of the way that he handles, public relations, and he really does well. I mean, yes, he has a public relations team. Yes, he has somebody that handles his media. Yes, he has a press secretary, but he kind of knows what to do, and he knows that even in certain situations where it might be a little questionable, that he's going to come out on top every time. And I don't think that's really arrogance. He's never been like, oh, I'm going to do this, and this is going to make me really popular, because he's never been about that. But he just knows, like, I'm a genuine person. People see that. And I mean, I've heard him argue with his family, like, not really to be like, oh, well, I'm the better person or something, but just like, them being like, well, why is this working out for you? You can do this, and it just seem like whatever. And he's like, well, because I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it to gain something. I just live my life. And he's always been like, kind of his behavior, sometimes questionable even to me. I'm like, oh my God, why did you just do that? And he'd be like, well, it's just me. That's who I am. I'm not going to change who I am for anybody. And that's always, that's really, admirable to be that way and to feel that way. But I've always been like, at the same time you have to play the game. Like, I even know that. I'm not in this situation. I know that there's a certain point where you have to play the game. And I think he sort of, over the past months have been like, okay, well, I'm going to figure out how that game's played. I'm going to play it my own way, my own style. I'm not going to conform necessarily, but I'm going to fulfill what I need to do to make my life what it needs to be, and to be able to deal with the things and the projects that I'm interested in and that I'm passionate in. And it has really worked out for him. He sat down with me, and he wanted somebody to basically handle everything that I had wanted to do, that I had spoken, in many of our conversations. It's just like, where do you see yourself later? What are you passionate about? And just normal conversations that you have with your partner. And there's a lot of different charity issues that I really wanted to get involved in. Maybe ones that he didn't necessarily understand because they weren't the same as his, but they were things that I felt passionate about, that I understood, and he supported those. And so he was like, how do we come together in this? Because at some point, as long as we're together, there's going to be a point where we have to present this, and it has to be presented properly. Because there are things in your life where people might frown down upon and be like, oh, who are you to be with him, and what exactly is your agenda? I don't want anybody to ever attack you negatively. It's very, very, he's very, protective of me. And he's always been like, I'm never gonna let anything bad happen to you. I mean, when you decide that this is something that you want to do, I'm ready for it. And you have to decide that. I'm not gonna make you, because I don't want to ever put that on you. I know, like, I've seen how it goes. And I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. You have to be ready. And it has to be done in a proper way. And there has to be, a process that goes with this. So let's work on what you want to do with your life and start building who you are as a person. So when you decide I'm ready, you're presented in the best way possible. And I mean, yes, of course, that is a public relations tactic. I'm not saying it's not, but it wasn't really to make him look good. It was like, I'm trying to make you the best you can be. I'm trying to make sure that you are presented as who you are, what you're passionate about, what you love. I don't want people to ever think that you're like some shallow, model, working in the industry who's, doing all these things that really mean nothing to the world in substance. I want you, because I know that you're a passionate, caring person, and I want those things to be able to be shown to people, because that's what makes me love you. And we both have sat down weeks and weeks on like different things that we came to the conclusion that we're really fucked up people when it comes to his family, because the things that we're really passionate about aren't necessarily things that I think they would support. They probably would frown upon. Like I've said in numerous, recordings, I'm really interested in the human condition, and I know that everything in the world is not black and white. And I think there's an issue going on in this world right now, with people being able to come together. There's all these prejudices and different kinds of, racial tensions going on, whether it be in the States with African Americans, whether it be world issues with immigrants, it's become a problem. I also feel that the medical community has really ruined people's health, and I really feel like they have poisoned the world, so that big companies can profit off of basically poisoning the systems of their citizens into needing more medicines and more treatments. And I mean, it's obvious, it's big business, big banking, all that stuff. I mean, I'm not stupid to this, and neither is he. Even though he's in a position where he's not supposed to discuss these things or have that type of opinion. I mean, it's things that you're a person, You have opinions, you have feelings. I mean, you either like something or you don't, and your opinions are based on, how you grew up or how you view the world or the different kind of circumstances that you've lived through, or just from researching and realizing, different situations in this world that either seem right to you or don't seem right to you. He grew up in a very privileged lifestyle, so he's never had that struggle. But at the same time, he's really in tune with the human condition, and he loves people, and he wants to help. And so we both came together with that, like, wow, we really kind of have the same views on things. We really want to change the world. And it seemed like the more vocal he became, like privately, just within his home, like dinners and things like that, the more they were just kind of getting frustrated with his talk about it, and like, you can't support stuff like that. That's not something for you to be involved in. Let other people deal with it. That's not something that you can involve yourself with. All that's going to do is cause us problems and cause us, a bunch of publicity that we don't want. And he was just kind of like, felt like his hands were tied a lot. Like like, I really want to say something about this. I am my own person. I have feelings, and I feel like I can give my voice to this issue, help people. And they would be like, you can't do that. That's an agenda that you cannot have. And he's been really frustrated about it because he's like, I don't care. And then we sat down and we thought, I mean, I guess this probably wasn't the smartest idea at the time, but we thought it was. We'll just do it ourselves. We'll fund the fucking, programs ourselves. We'll start building up our own, organization that's going to help. And we started looking into investors and people that, were like-minded philanthropists and people that were interested in helping others. Weren't necessarily looking for people that were looking to do it to gain something politically or publicly, for personal gain or professional gain, but just somebody that literally was like us, this is actually going to hurt me more than help me, but because I, in the most pure form, want to help another human being be able to conquer their own demons and, face life as it is and jump over those hurdles. I'm going to do what I can do. And in the end, it's all, good karma and free love and, value the other person as you would value your family. That wasn't what they wanted. It's all for an agenda. It's all for a purpose. It's all for your own gain. And I don't get that. I'd rather be poor and a happy person than be so insanely rich and just be miserable in my own home as a prisoner. And they didn't like me because I had opinions. I started noticing at this point when we were dealing with this, I started to lose blocks of time. 1 minute I would be doing something working on my portfolio. The next minute I've lost 3 hours of time and I'm sitting there with my pillow against the wall, just kind of leaning there staring. You would think, I'd smoked a whole joint and just kind of zoned out. And I didn't really know what that meant. I thought maybe my PTSD was acting up. And then this one night I was out and, I come home and I was sitting down and he came in the room and we'd been watching this movie for days and hadn't gotten through it. And he said, well, before we go to bed, why don't we lay on the couch and snuggle and just kind of finish watching the rest of this? And I said, okay. And I said, well, where's the DVD? And they said, I just popped it out because I was putting in another one earlier. So just whatever's on top of the DVD player is what you want to put in. So I put this DVD, and it was a black, blank disc. So I was just kind of okay, this is what you add in. I put it in. And it was just really strange. I mean, the screen was completely black, and there was all these really ear piercing noises. If you when you go to the doctor and you get those hearing tests when you're younger, and you have those headphones on, and in the distance you can hear that shrieking noise, and when you hear it, you have to put your finger up on that side that you hear it on. It was like that, but way louder. And then there was just all these nonsensical things being said. There was nothing visually to look at, but numbers and words and all this stuff. And then it sounded the high frequency again, and it almost sounded like Morse code or something. And then just everything, and then it went off. And he's like, what was that? And I'm like, I don't know. It was on top. You want me to put in what was on top? And he's like, get that out. Let me see that. So I got it out and he looked at it. And he's like, that was weird. He's like, put it back in. Maybe there was a glitch in the DVD, because I don't even know what that is. I've never seen that in my life. Put it back in. All of a sudden, he starts raging out. Like, he was, like, pacing back and forth in front of the TV. I was sitting there hysterically crying, like I had just been told somebody very important to me passed away. And he was just like, get away from me, get away from me. And I'm like, what did I do? And he's like, nothing, you didn't do anything, baby, just get away from me. I just like feel this extreme rage and I don't even know why. And I don't want to hurt you, but I do want to hurt you, so just get away from me. And then he paced back like a little bit more and then he went slamming out the door. I started bawling. I called my friend and I was like, I don't even know what's happening. He came over and he like looked at the video and he was like, what was that? It didn't affect him at all. Now it affected my boyfriend in the way that he was literally angry, raging, and violent feelings. I was emotionally like unstable. I was crying a lot and I almost feel like I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. I felt floaty. Like, when you don't eat something for hours and you start getting like really kind of dizzy and just you feel like your body is just like not where it's supposed to be. I felt like that. And there was like different times when like my heart would like thump really hard. Like not every time it was beating, but just every once in a while there would be like this like kickstart thump in my heart that just be like, woo. It was really, really strange. He finally came back. He said he walked around the block for, about 40 minutes and that he started feeling better. And, I asked him, like, what was that? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I just, you need to see somebody or you need to talk to somebody. And I don't know who it is you need to talk to, but, I just feel really strange. And I know, like, this was like the most that he spent time around his family in like years, because when he was in school he was away for school. He was in boarding school, so he wasn't really around his family during the academic year. And then after school he started his career and he was gone most of the time for that for about 10 years. It's about a decade. And this was like this past year was like the first year where he was really, around them more, to kind of see the comings and goings and realizing like something just doesn't feel right. And then when we were like literally together and extremely, committed, it seemed like, because I'm like, I never had problems like this before. I've had serious relationships and I literally have never experienced anything like I've experienced with you so far, and I don't know whether maybe I'm going crazy or whether like life is changing before my eyes. And then that night I was just so horny. It was ridiculous. And this was a parallel I started noticing. There were certain different times and certain different feelings that I had. Sometimes I would be like sitting around, nothing. I'd be like out somewhere in an appointment. All of a sudden my eyes would start burning. I'd start getting a little bit of a headache. Not a big one, but just like this dull, achy feeling from like my shoulder up into the side of my neck, just on one side, and into my head. And like it'd just be this dull, aching headache, and I'd have to go take naps. And at one point they put me on migraine medication, which didn't do shit, so I stopped taking it. And after all these things, I would become this freak, like, for sex. I was just like, there was even a point where he's like, are you pregnant? Because you're just like acting really crazy. And like, I Googled it, and that's one of the symptoms of sometimes is pregnancy. So are you pregnant or something? Because you're literally jumping me the minute I come in the door. And I would. Totally. I was like a slave for this guy. Because I never was a sexual person. And I just wasn't sure whether it was like, well, I'm finally in love with somebody to the point where I'm like wanting to show them all the time, or I'm just extremely sexually attracted to this guy and he just does it for me. I don't know what it was, but we had a really great sex life. For the first time in my life, I had a really great sex life. So I was like, maybe that's it. I'm just actually finally enjoying myself. But I mean, sometimes he would come to the door and I'd be just like, I'd jump on him and be like trying to pull his pants down. He would like carry me to the bedroom and just like ripping my clothes off. And like, we'd be going at it for hours until I barely could walk. And I'm just like, whoa, this is not me. And I'm not saying bad necessarily. I'm just saying, like, why all of a sudden am I turning into this nymphomaniac that wants to fuck the hell out of my boyfriend every time he walks in a room? I mean, sometimes he'd be sitting there and he'd be literally, like, working on researching something online, and I'd just be, like, a certain way that he'd be, like, biting his lip while he's looking at the screen. And I'd be like, oh my god, that's so sexy. I just want to sit on your face and let's fuck. And he'd be like, alright, because the guy's going to be like, no, it's too much for me. But he was even saying like, wow, what's going on with you? And it was really strange. It was really, really strange. And it continued on from there. It just got like a little bit crazier. I'm going to get more into it. I need to take a break for a second because I get these headaches when I talk about this stuff. It's really crazy, and I start getting paranoid and like trying to look out my windows. It's really nuts, but I'm gonna continue on.